and welcome to another episode of Stuck in My Mind podcast. I am your host, Wize, and today's guest is a truth bringer for women who've done all they've been told yet still feel stuck. My next guest is a trauma healer, nervous system expert, creator of the Trauma Matrix and the movement to evict the narc within. She helps women expose the internalized narcissists masquerading as their inner voice, the one quietly sabotaging their brilliance, value, and visibility. If you're ready to stop being invisible, stop playing small, and reclaim your voice, you're in the right seat. Please welcome Emma Lyons.
Thank you so much for having me. Great to be here.
Oh, the pleasure's mine. How are you doing today?
I'm very good today. Warm. It's warm where I am. I'm in Mexico, so it's quite hot.
Ah,
But
nice.
all good. Not complaining.
So Emma, you speak of a inner narcissist that hides in plain sight. What does that mean?
This is what's often called the so-called inner critic. This is the shame voice, the voice that shames you, that says you're not enough. There's something wrong with you. Don't start that podcast. Who are you to be that singer? You'll never be successful. You're a failure. That voice. And especially in Western society, we all have one. Even narcissists have them. I mean, they're driven by shame. It's repressed shame. The only people that don't have this, I think, really is psychopaths. They don't experience empathy, and you need empathy to experience shame. So, and shame is so prevalent in our culture. It's absolutely everywhere. It's so normalized that we internalize this narcissist and we start shaming ourselves. And it's called the hustle culture. There's so many different forms, but it's all about shaming people, where we've been gaslit to believe that if you just shame yourself enough that you'll somehow get better. And actually the opposite is true, because shame is the worst possible way to change behavior. It works in the moment. That's why people do it. It looks very effective. If there's a child here who I want to keep quiet, I shame him and he shuts up very quickly. But it doesn't solve the problem in the longer term. It doesn't teach him anything. What all shame says is that there's something wrong with you. You're a bad person. That's counterproductive to helping them change their behavior and become, rehabilitated and recognize the error of their ways. Shame is actually counterproductive to all that. We don't need shame in order to become better. We need less shame. But everywhere we're told, even the language that we use, the English language, you have no shame. You have no shame. You're shameless. You're shameful. We're the whole society, especially in English, we're pushed this idea of shame as a moral compass. You need to experience shame in order to be a good boy and a good girl, and we take this into our lives and we pass it on. We internalize the narcissist. That starts attacking us, and then we pass that on to other people. And this is how the system controls people, through shame. Real freedom is not just sharing yourself, having no secrets. That's good. But the real path to freedom is letting go of shame completely. Then you become unmanipulatable, because in order to manipulate someone, we need to shame them. That's an essential component. Shame is inherently manipulative. There's nothing good about it, not even one thing. If we look at anger, anger means somebody's crossed my boundary. I need to tell them to stop, to keep away from me, right? That's useful. Obviously not in, dysfunctional doses. It gets out of control. The same, with anger, with guilt. Guilt is telling me I'm feeling pain because I've done something wrong. Shame, it just tells you it's self-annihilation. It's this message that there is something wrong with you. It's self-attack, and there is nothing good about that. Not even one thing.
So why do so many high achieving women still feel invisible or burnt out even after years of and therapy and coaching with
Well,
everything?
because all of this coaching and healing, it doesn't really address the underlying problem, which is the shame. And just like in dysfunctional or narcissistic families, you have someone that's selected as the scapegoat. We also have groups of people that have been scapegoated by our society. For example, women. women have been scapegoated, all the men's shame around sex, it gets projected on someone else. That happens on an individual level and also on a collective level. And now you can see it playing out not only in the United States, but everywhere. The current scapegoat is the immigrants. So all the collective unprocessed shame that it's the white people, the elite or whatever people experience, it's very uncomfortable. So we need to look for a target to project it on, and women do that to other women all the time. Oh, you're so fat, you've got those wrinkles. We shame other women because it gives us that little bit of, oh, I'm so powerful. It gives us a narcissistic hit, and that's happening in the collective. But it doesn't stop the shame. It just gives us some temporary relief from it. Because we project the shame on the other person, and then we try to destroy that other person, take them down, so that we can get to feel better. So it's a really interesting tool, and it's totally pervasive. It's totally normalized in our culture. Everybody does it. Everybody does it to themselves and think that it's helping them get better. And it's an absolute lie. There's zero evidence of that. But people are constantly told, to take this shame voice. It ticks all the boxes of the narcissist. It's grandiose, self-important. It's got all these fantasies. These are the DSM definitions of a narcissist, by the way. It's preoccupied. It's got all these fantasies. It believes that it's special. Like, it's basically telling you what to do. It knows best, and it requires you to admire it and to do what it says and perform. But it's definitely entitled. It lacks empathy. It's envious of other people. And it's the only criteria that it doesn't fulfill is interpersonally exploitative, because it doesn't exploit other people as much as exploits and manipulates you. So it ticks all the boxes of the narcissist, but the call is coming from inside the house, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yes. So how do you realize that self-sabotage wasn't just a poor mindset, but a deeper trauma response?
Yeah, exactly. That's such a good description of it, because we self-sabotage, we procrastinate, we have imposter syndrome, and women experience more imposter syndrome than men because of that collective kind of shame that's been projected on women. And it's been projected on other collectives as well, like Black people. They've been scapegoated. So they're carrying that shame everything is operating on shame, and without shame, you get to be free. You get to be unmanipulatable. And that's the beautiful thing. But most people that are out there talking about shame teach people how to cope with shame. Send love to your shame voice. It's like, and shame, it's like this narcissist, just like the narcissist outside, it thrives on that. You were told not to take the thing to therapy. Don't take a narcissist to therapy. Don't pull. But with this narcissist that we've internalized, we're told to send it love and take it to therapy and try to understand it. We're treating it like a wounded part, and when it's actually a narcissist, and we just need to kick the thing out and break up with it. But we have a very dysfunctional relationship with shame, and we've been told and taught for generations that shame is good for you. So we've all taken that on to various degrees, and to various degrees, it's destroying us. I discovered it because I carried a lot of shame from childhood, because I just realized this when in later life, really, that I thought I was the problem, because I thought my family was perfect and lovely and everything. But it turns out, when I looked back through a different lens, I realized that I had been the scapegoat in a very dysfunctional family. And my mom, she ticks pretty much all the boxes of the covert narcissist. And I was the most sensitive person in the family. And it's often the sensitive person that gets selected as a scapegoat. And what you get then, you get all the unprocessed trauma, all the shame, all the stuff that nobody else wants to look at. It all energetically gets projected on you. So the scapegoat often goes on to become an alcoholic, to have addictions, to have mental health problems, because all that shame is really, really, it's extremely corrosive and damaging. And it's the root of so much evil in our world. All addictions, you'll find shame there. People drink to give themselves a sense of relief from the shame. I was on a podcast about bulimia. Same thing. You're trying to get some sense of control, but it's because of that sense of shame that's driving it. So shame is the root of so much bad things in our society, even up to things like genocide. You know, the scapegoat goes on to find someone else to project their shame on and tries to genocide them. Shame is an essential component in genocide. It's not the only component, but it's an essential substrate. And for so many mental disorders were there as well. I can't say everything, but there are hardly any that I can think of that don't involve some degree of shame. Up to, you know, people I've had that thought that I want to, you know, take myself out or commit or unalive myself, and that is shame. Shame, I believe that shame is an essential component for people to actually take that action. Without shame, because shame says there's something wrong with you, you can never fix it, you're defective. And when we've been performing and giving that thing energy for 30, 40, 50 years, it metastasizes into something really, really toxic. And that's when it starts saying those kinds of things to you. And you know, without that, no matter how bad things get in your life, Will, you have to have that voice in your head in order to do something like that. No matter how bad things appear on the other, that sense of hopelessness and helplessness. And shame is the belief that there's something wrong with you. But even more than that, shame is a toxic cocktail of a bunch of different emotions like self-disgust, anger turned inwards, helplessness, hopelessness, um, you know, all of these. It's basically self-attack. I don't know if you've ever had a shame attack, but it's basically you're attacking yourself. And it takes over your body like nothing else. Not even fear is comparison. There's fear in the mix as well. And then beliefs that I'm bad or there's something wrong with me or I might as well not be here. All of that comes downstream from that super toxic cocktail of a feeling. And this is why I say shame is not a normal emotion. It's an implant. It's a concept to control people, and you cannot be controlled if you have no shame. So this is why we've been taught that we all need shame in order to be good boy, in order to be good girl. But shame only functions. Only positive function is to make yourself more controllable by other people and the empire, so to speak.
So what's the difference between guilt and shame, and why does it matter in this work?
Yeah. Well, in a fully enlightened society, we definitely we don't need shame ever. It doesn't guilt. Shame is the belief that I'm bad. There's something wrong with me. Guilt says I've done something bad. I've done something bad. So it's not self-attack. The problem is in our culture, when we've done something bad, we usually get an extra large, it usually comes with an extra large portion of shame. And those two things get conflated. And when people defend shame, that's the main defense that they have. Oh, we need shame in order to know that we've done something bad. No, we don't need shame. We need empathy. And guess what shuts down empathy? Shame. When you experience shame, it shuts down the parts of your brain that experience empathy. That's what we need more of. We need more empathy, we need more compassion, we need more self awareness. And when we experience shame, it shuts down all that because what it does is it puts you into survival mode. Because if I say something to you, even if it's not shaming, but if you and that's the interesting thing about shame, you can experience shame without someone saying anything because it's about what the inner voice says rather than what the person says. So I'll give you an example. I was talking to someone on a podcast a few weeks ago, and they were talking about their aunt. They were out as children. They were eating ice cream, and they were kind of plumpish girls. And this grown man comes up to them and says, "You shouldn't be eating ice cream. It'll make you fat." These girls, think about it, they could have felt so much shame, dropped their ice cream, and run away. They laughed in this guy's face. They laughed in this guy's face, and they continued to eat their ice cream. So we only become shameable when we have that inner voice that agrees. Like if I come up to you and say your pink hair is absolutely disgusting, what's wrong? You're going to think, who's this crazy woman? You're not going to experience shame. In order for you to experience shame, you need the little hook. So nobody can hook onto. You need to believe that you're fat or you've got a big nose or whatever the BS is that they're throwing at you, because shame is always a projection, 100% of the time. And when you start to see that, when you see people trying to shame you, you send it back, return it to sender. You don't take it in. You leave them with their shame, and to project it on the next person. But it's shame is so toxic. It's just, and once you start seeing this, you can't unsee it. You know, it's just unbelievable that this idea that we need shame is being promoted widely, and even mental health professionals, even people like Brown, who has written a lot about shame, she says that if you don't experience shame, that would make you a psychopath. But the problem with psychopaths, yeah, they don't experience shame. But why don't they experience shame? Because they don't have the capacity to experience empathy. So not having the empathy is the real problem. It's not that they don't have shame. Shame, as I said, shuts down our ability to empathize. So we're told to do the opposite of what we actually need in order to grow and expand in consciousness, and stop trying to kill ourselves, or stop letting this narcissist that we've internalized continue to attack us and destroy our lives. That's the only thing that it's trying to do. It's not trying to protect you. And this is the other thing. We're all told that this so-called inner critic, it's a wounded child, that it's trying to look out for you, that it's trying to care for you, that it's trying to keep you safe. That's total BS. You know, narcissists out there in the world will kick you in the balls and punch you in the face and then tell you that they're doing it to keep you safe. Same with this voice. This voice is not concerned about your safety. It's concerned about how it feels. And that's always true anytime. If I shame someone, like the child is making noise and I shame him, I may tell myself I'm doing that for his own good, to help him, but really it's about my comfort. 100% of the time shame is like that. Shame is always about the comfort of the shamer. It's never about the person being shamed. It's always prioritizes the shamer, and that's why it's kind of a narcissistic ploy, and it gives us this sense of power. When we shame someone, we're like, "Oh, I'm so powerful, I can manipulate, I can make that person do what I want and feel bad, you know?"
Yeah, definitely. So can you walk us through the moment you decided to stop battling your inner voice and instead dismantle it?
Well, I mean, a lot of years went by where I was shaming myself constantly, and I was very depressed. And like I said, then I had the voice that was saying, "Oh, you know, the compulsive thoughts." That was all shame telling me that I might as well not be here. But it took me really getting out of my family, getting away from them, you know, going no contact really, and having this awareness about the root of all my problems, really. And I don't say that to be facetious, but I say that because shame has really been the driving force in so much of what hasn't worked in my life. You know, the depression, feeling like I wasn't good enough, the reasons why I didn't go for things because of the shame, the reason why I couldn't show up authentically. And this is the shame. When you're carrying shame, you can't be authentic, because shame says, hide yourself, you're not good enough, there's something wrong with you. So it's the opposite of authenticity. People who are carrying shame can't be authentic, it's impossible. So it took me a long time to really start unwinding that, but I kind of got the download that said, you know, shame is really the root of all that's wrong in your life, and breaking up with it really, even though there are other components involved like scarcity, and they're kind of like the soldiers of shame, if you like. Shame is kind of the big granddaddy of all the negative emotions. And when you get rid of the shame, it really releases up, it frees up so much energy that you thought, you know, tiredness and so many things. It frees up so much energy so that you can dedicate yourself to other things.
Hmm. So what's one sign someone listening might have that they that they've been held back by this internalized narcissist rather than just lack of confidence? You're muted. I can't hear you.
Yeah, I just had some background noise.
Yeah.
And so, what was your question again?
What's one sign someone listening might have that they're being held back by this internalized narcissist rather than just lack of confidence?
Well, I mean, it affects everyone in our society. It's not, that's the wrong question. It's like, how bad is it? Is it bad enough for you to do something about? That's the real question.
Mm.
So, yeah, people who are stuck at a plateau, people who have imposter syndrome, perfectionism, self sabotage, these things all are rooted in shame and even addictions and things. So it's really not a case if, it's a case when you decide. That's really the thing. Are you willing to take this step and break up with the shame, which is the root cause of all this stuff? So I do have a free gift that's 5 signs that it's time to break up with your inner narcissist. That kind of takes you through more tangible steps. But again, it's about, are things bad enough yet for you to actually do something about it? Because shame is driving so much of what is wrong in our lives, but not everyone is willing to, or ready to do something about it yet. They prefer to, and the way most kind of therapy works with shame, like I said, it's about dealing with the symptoms. So you're dealing with self sabotage, money blocks, you know, other things as if they're the problem rather than dealing with the underlying root cause, which is shame. And that's, it's just you're playing whack-a-mole with a bunch of symptoms rather than dealing with the, so it's obviously going to pop up somewhere else or come back later, but really the conventional wisdom tells you to get comfortable with your shame and send love to your shame, take it to therapy, treat it like a wounded part rather than to kick the thing out and take back your power. That's not really something, because shame is such an integral, especially in Christian society. This idea of original sin. It's kind of the foundation of Western civilization and culture, and that's it's a particularly corrosive shade of shame that says there's something wrong with you just because you're here. It's not something that you've done, and at the same time, you have to forgive. So you're a sinner and you have to forgive. Like, think about that for a second. That's like a double bind that you can never get out of. And if we look at cultures before Christianity, and by the way, Jesus didn't teach shame. That came later. That came, again, it's control mechanism.
Mhm.
But before that, in other civilizations, they did have a type of shame, but it's kind of collective. I call it collectivist shame. Like, so an honor code, if you step out from what's considered acceptable, you're shamed for that. You're shamed for getting pregnant, or, it's something that you've done that brings shame on the family. So there again, shame, it's a way to control people. But it's not because of who you are, it's because of something that you've done. So slightly less corrosive, in my opinion, although again, lots of it is deadly. People, when they experience shame, they unalive themselves. It's a huge problem in Japan because they have such a deep honor. That honor sense of shame is so important. And so shame is an absolute killer. It's absolutely deadly. And we do not need it to become better people. Never, never, never.
So tell us about your framework, the trauma matrix. What are its core layers?
Well, really, the trauma matrix is, I started to see, like I alluded to previously, I started to recognize that the patterns that show up in families like this, where you have the leader, the narcissist, you have the enabler, you have the golden child, you have the scapegoat, you see how this fractals out into society. You see people being scapegoated everywhere in corporations and in countries and intra-national civilizations, the collective, and we also internalize that. So we have the same framework going. So this is, and shame is the kind of driving force of this trauma. When we look at trauma and how it's handed down from generation to generation, shame is kind of like the glue that keeps that going. If you think of animals, they don't experience shame. Well, animals that haven't been domesticated or don't experience shame. They only experience shame when they've been around humans. And this is without that shame, trauma is not sticky like it is with humans. People don't have an accident and still thinking about it 20, 30 years later. It's shame that does that. So this is how, like, shame is kind of the coding system of the trauma matrix, and without shame, it doesn't work. It falls apart, and we take back control of who we really are in our lives, and nobody we become self-empowered and unmanipulatable by other people and people in power.
So, so you say visibility isn't a mindset issue; it's a trauma response. Can you unpack that?
Yeah, because I'm going to sound like a broken record, but when we have a lot of shame, as we all do, we want to hide. We don't want to be seen. Shame says, make yourself small, don't be seen for who you really are, put up a front so that people don't see how defective and stupid or ugly or whatever that voice is saying. So we hide. We hide, and we have so much repressed shame. You might be aware of a certain amount of shame that you're carrying, but we've been carrying that. Think of how many decades and generations this shame has been around. It's kind of in our DNA now, especially if you were from a group that was also scapegoated, like if you were a minority in your country, or if you were women and you were scapegoated or shamed. Women were carrying that through. Women have been shamed for their bodies, for being too sexy, for being too fat, for being too ugly, too whatever. So we're carrying all that. So we've got to. What was your question again? I lost track of your question.
You say visibility isn't a mindset issue; it's a trauma
Yes.
response.
And we carry that shame in our nervous system. So when we start being visible or showing up on podcasts or whatever we're trying to do, the shame under the surface is saying, or your nervous system, it'll just contract. You won't be able to show up authentically. Even if you're able to show up on video, the shame is kind of running you, and it's like, oh, you have to be stilted, you have to look like this. It won't let you be authentic. So that's the opposite of visibility. You can't be authentic. If you can't, shame is the opposite of authenticity. So how can you be visible really if you're hiding? So we want to be visibility. You've got to be authentic, and shame inhibits that so much all the freaking time. So, and this is the thing, I see so many women that are doing all the right things, and it's just like things start to move and then stops, and this is all kind of driven by, these things are often by the unconscious shame. That's your nervous system is like, hell no, it's not safe to be on that platform, to be seen that big. I'm going to be attacked, I'm going to be shamed. So it's kind of this preventative, anticipatory shame, of what people was. That's anxiety as well. Anxiety is anticipatory shame. What are they going to say about me? What are they going to think? And we have a epidemic of anxiety here. So it's fear about being seen. That's what it is, and that is shame.
How do somatic work, nervous system healing, and energy practices help women break out of shame loops?
Well, yeah. I mean, I do have a technique. It's called break, BREAK, to start breaking the trance. But first of all, and what I'd love for people to get from this interview is that shame is not good for you, never. And to stop, to make that pact. If you just look around in society like tomorrow and walk around and see how often you see other people shaming other people, maybe the voice in your head shaming you, start recognizing that shame is never useful. It's never helpful, 0% of the time. And that brings me to the B, break the trance. Recognize that this isn't your voice. So if the voice is shaming you, or if you're experiencing shame, recognizing that it's not yours, it's a spell, it's a pattern, it's a trance that we've all collectively been under. And naming it really starts to disrupt the loop already. Then you go on to R, which is refuse to engage. And this is a different one than what we're taught as well, because we're taught to argue and defend from this voice, but we've got to do full on what you do with narcissists out there. And Dr. Ramani, who's an expert in narcissists, she talks about deep. Don't defend, don't engage, don't explain, and don't personalize. Just say, not today. Not today, Satan. Not you don't need to be polite to this thing. It's a parasite. Not today. It's not happening. And don't entertain it. Don't start, trying to argue with it or any of that. That just drop the rope, really. Then E is expose the lie. So call out the shame-based programming. So whatever it's saying that you've got a big nose or that you're too ugly to be on to do the podcast or whatever the BS is that it's saying, recognize that this is shame-based programming. This is about control. It's not about helping you. It's not about making you be better. It's about control. And it's not true. So you've got a big nose. Big compared to what? Big compared to Mount Everest? I think not. I mean, this is all control. It's all story. It's all an illusion. And really speaking that truth disarms its power. Then you got to anchor it in your. So come back to your body really, because shame it takes over your body. Like it makes you shrink. It makes your shoulders go down. You physically try to hide. That's what shame does. So you've got to come back to your body, feel your breath, plant your feet, say your name and the year, and really remind your nervous system that you're safe and that you're sovereign and that you're still here. And then finally, K is kick it out. And that means physically shaking, stomping it off, and just recognizing this is not mine, whatever the voice or the energy is saying to you. So this is and I know it's really simple, but I recognize that it's not easy because people have been programmed with shame for 30, 40, 50, 60 years. So you've been giving it all your energy, you've been performing for it. And this is something different. This is about telling it to F off basically and taking back your power from it's like a light bulb, It has no power without you. It's like a shell. It's just like the narcissist outside. It's got nothing. That's why it's so obsessed with keeping you in your place and telling you what you can and can't do and shaming you, because then it gets to feel like it's just like a narcissist. It ticks every single box of the narcissist, but the call is coming from inside the house. So we've got to stop doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've already
Hang on a sec.
I know, yeah. So you've
Background
already
noise.
just mentioned earlier about the trauma from your childhood and your family, and
Yeah.
you didn't realize that they were the cause of of all the shame and everything that you experienced in
Yeah.
your life. Well, with someone who because I know how I was raised, and I've not personally experienced being shamed family wise like that, but there are family members that I've seen in the growing up that they were shamed because of their size or something
Yeah.
else, and even me later on in life, because I've lost 130 pounds, and so
Wow. Yeah.
people before there were people who made comments about my weight
Yeah.
and stuff like that, and try to shame me. But the fact that I didn't let it affect me
See,
because
that's it. Yeah.
yeah, I knew I was overweight, and I knew the only person that was going to be able to do something about it was me. Was me making the changes and doing what I had to do to take off to change to take off the weight and keep it off. So yeah, no, I've it's definitely something that people do experience it
Yeah.
because of their family. Absolutely.
And with weight and things, shame prevents people from losing weight. It doesn't help. There again, you can see it. When people feel shame, they want to insulate more. Unconsciously, they're like, I have to protect myself more, and they put on more weight. So shame is actually counterproductive to them losing weight. So when people shame you, people are doing it because we're all brainwashed into believing that shame is if you just shame someone enough, then they'll change. I have a Substack, and somebody responded to my post and they said, "How dare you criticize shame? We have to shame pedophiles." And I was like, well, that hasn't worked out well. We've been shaming pedophiles for how many generations, and it's still going on. Epstein didn't get the memo, you know?
We still
So,
haven't seen the files, yeah.
yeah, we still haven't seen the files, but again, There's a lot of there's a lot of evidence that people who, for example, within families, people who have been sexually abused, and this isn't always the case, but this is sometimes what happens. People who've been sexually abused, they're carrying all this shame. They go on to find someone else, another child, to pass it on, and that's one example how people attempt to kind of pass on their shame in a very, very dysfunctional way. So again, shame has a lot to do with it. It's the part of the problem. It's not the solution, is what I'm trying to put across, and that's not what society is telling us at the moment.
No, absolutely not. No, society right now it's turned upside on its head right now with everything that's going on all across the world. Here in the states, especially with just the division between the people here and everything, and it's it's sad to see that
It is, yeah.
that they that in society that this is such a way to like how you talk about manipulating control
Yeah.
and yeah and it's a lot of it's in a lot of systems that are implemented like I'm not a religious person. I am a spiritual person. I don't
Yes.
follow a set religion of of that reason, because I feel that they try to control you through religion. So yeah, do I believe in a higher power? Yes. I do I work on my relationship with that higher power? Yes. Do I go to church every Sunday? Absolutely not. That's not me. But yeah, so it's just the way society is right now. It's
Exactly.
crazy.
And so much of what is wrong in society, you can break it down to shame. Like if you look at what's happening in the United States, so within family systems, I talked about the golden child, the scapegoat, and the kind of the narcissist. So the golden children of the United States, like the white elites or whatever, they're carrying a bunch of shame, and they want to pass it on to someone else. Who's the target now? Immigrants, because the whole culture is built on violence and genocide, and the people who perpetuate that and carry that, it affects them even unconsciously. So they're carrying all that shame, repressed, and it feels terrible. You can't process it. So they find a victim for their shame, they project it on them and try to destroy them. And this is why you get immigrants being scapegoated. They're a soft target. So yeah, it's shame is the root of so many. It's the reason why our world is upside down. We live in a narcissistic world, and this is why there are narcissists everywhere, because what's promoted. All our leaders are narcissistic. The whole society is narcissistic. It's mentally ill. It's extremely mentally ill because we're operating out of shame. That's the opposite of what we need to be operating on. That's a lack of authenticity. You're not being really you. You don't know who you are if you're operating out of shame. And pretty much everyone is operating out of shame, and they think that they're operating out of all these shame trauma response. They think that's just their personality. I'm just got anxiety. I'm just shy. It's shame. They're carrying so much shame. And when you take shame out of the equation, you free up so much power for people. We don't need shame in order to become better. Shame is what keeps us down and keeps us small and keeps us controllable by people who want to tell us what to do and what we can become.
So for women who overgive or undercharge, why is that often rooted in the hidden voice rather than simply poor business skills?
Yeah, it's about shame around asking for what you're worth, because deep down inside you have doubts, you have self doubt. Oh, I'm not really worth it. If I ask for that, I'll be rejected. I'll feel bad. And again, that comes down to shame. I know it sounds simplistic, but that's what it is. It's shame. Imposter syndrome is just shame with better PR. So shame is the root cause of why we keep ourselves small, why we undercharge, why we overgive, why we people please. We're all trying to perform so that we'll feel like enough, because we're being driven by this entity, this shame that says you're not good enough. There's something wrong with you. You have to prove your value. You have to work hard in order to be good enough, and it's never enough. Just like the narcissist, the narcissist says, if you, or the voice inside says, oh, just get to 10K and then you'll be good enough. And then when you get to 10K, it's like, no, you're still not good enough. We have to get to 500K or whatever. They move the goalposts all the time. So you cannot, it's like trying to buy your self-worth, buy your feeling better by buying new cars and a house. It doesn't work because there's an emptiness inside, and that's shame. Shame is a void, and it's like sucks you into it. It's got nothing, it gives you nothing, but it takes away all your power.
So what's next for you? How are you expanding this work and helping more women step into their power?
Well, yeah, I'm building a community, and yeah, I'm working on a funnel to help people. But really, at the moment, I'm just about sharing. I do have a book in process as well, so I'm looking for people to collaborate with, because this project is obviously bigger than me, and not many people that I know of are talking about shame like this. Most people that talk about shame talk about it as something that's useful in some way. And that's the exact opposite of what I'm saying here. So I'm looking for people to collaborate. I've got a book in the mix, and I'm building a program and a kind of framework to really help people get out of the shame matrix, get out of the trauma matrix, and really take back their power that this thing has been stealing from them all their lives.
Mm, absolutely. So, okay. For women's listening right now who's done therapy, done the inner work, but still play small, what would you tell them?
I would say if you haven't addressed your shame, that's not, you haven't reached the bottom, the root cause, because shame is the thing that keeps you small, that keeps you struggling, that keeps you going round and round in circles. It's like the root. It's the root of all of these things, and if you haven't addressed it, it's still there in the background. It's going to pop up in some other way. Like most people that talk about shame, or they talk about perfectionism and procrastination, they talk about that as if it's the problem rather than a symptom of a deeper problem, which is shame. So shame really is the root. If you're serious about healing yourself and leaning, really opening yourself up into your power and getting your power out, really getting rid of all the things that are keeping your power down, and only you can do that. It takes a decision. That's when you make that decision and you deal with the root of it all, and that's shame.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if someone takes only one principle from our conversation today, what should it be?
Shame is no good for you. Shame is poisonous every single time. Stop shaming yourself. Stop thinking shame is a moral compass. Shaming people, our culture has trained people to think that, oh, if I've done terrible things, I've killed 10 people, but I feel shame about it. So it's kind of like a get out of jail card, free card. If you feel shame, then that somehow makes you a different person. No, shame doesn't make you a better person. Choosing to become a better person, that makes you a better person, and that's very different from shame. You don't need shame for one thing. It's toxic. You are drinking poison willingly, and you got to stop doing it. You got to make that decision. It's a decision. It's a decision that you make, the decision that you're going to stop this shame thing, because otherwise it will keep running your life. It'll keep there under the surface no matter what you do. So awareness, hopefully this conversation has brought about that awareness, and then people can make the decision to stop shaming themselves. And like, it's a process. I have a process I take people through, including the break framework, where I do a lot of inner child work with people to really release. I help people to really release the shame without kind of going into all the thoughts about it and getting lost in it, because people are told to sit down with their shame, and it's very dangerous, because shame is not like a normal emotion. You don't experience shame and then get to something else. Like, if you feel anger, there might be grief underneath it or something else to process. Shame isn't like that. Shame is a bottomless pit of shame. You sit with the shame, you get more shame. You can even get to the final place where the shame voice is telling you, you might as well not be here. So it's quite a dangerous thing to say to people, to sit down with their shame. be very careful with that. You know, do with a professional or someone, but you can feel, you want to release it. We want to release the shame. We don't want to feel it and fuel it and go into all the stories that shame brings. That's the real key difference. So make a decision that you don't want shame, and then start consciously releasing it. This is what I do with people. I help people to do that.
So, Emma, we've come to the part of the show where you get the spotlight and you get to plug away and let everybody know where they can get the book, everything, website, everything.
Yeah, sure. So you can find me on Substack. I am the Trauma Matrix, so you can find me there. You can also find me on Instagram, trauma.matrix. And I have a free gift for people. So if you were listening to this conversation and resonated with it, what I would invite you to do, I have a free guide for you, 5 signs that it's time to break up with your inner narcissist. And you can find that. You can either reach out to me on socials or you can go direct to tinyurl.com/not today narc. Not today narc, NARC. And that will give you the guide, 5 signs that it's time to break up with your inner narcissist, and give you tools and strategies to make that happen. But the 5 classic signs that now is the time to do it, and also strategies and tools to really start bringing that into being in your life. So definitely check me out, give me a follow on social media, and I would love to hear how this conversation hit home for you. What I would love to hear, drop me a DM and let me know if this conversation woke something in you. I would love to hear. So definitely connect with me. Follow me on Substack. That's the main place that I'm sharing my longer form work at the moment.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for being such a wonderful guest. But don't leave just yet. Let me close out the show and we'll chat a little bit off the air. But thank you so much for being such a great guest. I appreciate your time. And when you finish writing the book, well, you can definitely come back and you can talk about it. I would love to have you come back and talk about the book once you're ready and you release it.
Cool. Well, yeah, definitely.
Awesome, awesome. All right. So thank you once again, and I appreciate your time. But again, let me close out the show and we'll chat a little bit off there. All right, everybody. Another great episode is in the books. I had such a great time. So if Emma Works resonated with you, head over to or actually I'm gonna put the link in the description. So definitely go check it out. Go grab her for her free resource, 5 signs you're ready to break up with your inner narcissist. And if you know a woman who's done the work but still feels quite unseen or undervalued, share this episode with her. Because vision needs voice. Stay bold, stay visible, stay wise. You know how your boy Wize does it? Peace out.